welcome back, commissioners, and back to you, Chair Harrington.
Thank you. Welcome back. We are here in the afternoon section of the Washington County Board of Commissioners Roundtable for Thursday, October 3rd, 2024. And we have 4 of us on the commission, and Commissioner Willie is hoping to return at 1:30. So this is, usually we have some talk time in each of our roundtables, and there are a few things that I know I have on my list that we may want to sync up on. We did spend time earlier today going over the rolling agenda, so we know what the latest list of things are that staff is planning to bring forward to us. I do have just one last question I neglected to ask about of Ms. Angie. I've passed out the Explore Tualatin Valley Strategic Plan, and I don't remember in looking at the rolling agenda, is that contract something that is an administrative contract or something that we have to approve for the distribution of the TLT to them?
Good question. We are on track for that to come back to your board October, November.
Okay.
We haven't put it on yet because we need another sync up with Dave Prullo to really confirm that date, but we're on track for the end of
this
year.
quarter.
Yep.
Okay, great. Okay, and then for further plans with regard to the sales and marketing for West Side Commons, particularly for the event center, will that be coming to us at some point?
That is part of that contract negotiation.
Okay.
With WCVA or ETV. Sorry, I haven't made that switch yet of acronyms.
But that's not on the rolling agenda.
Not
No,
yet. We
no,
don't know. That's the hard part, right?
Is it
We
like
have
that?
the BCC focus list, which is the really big stuff.
Mhm.
And I think staff has tried to do a better job of being clearer on what is expected when. A few things have pushed out compared to the September version, but we don't seem to have those italics placeholders like we used to. So with the exception of this item, are there other normal business things that we should see coming into the rolling agenda? More,
Let me get back to you on that because I don't have things just top of mind. In the case of the ETV contract, part of this is not just a contract negotiation. This is also about Explore Tualatin Valley to step into supporting sales and marketing in the position of West Side Commons. And so in the spirit of partnership, we've been very careful of not even to put that in italics. So just because this is also a public document and we're in contract negotiations. So that's the reason behind that one. But let me check with staff. The ACAs and departments are actively working on looking out now to first quarter of next year. So in your next published series of rolling agendas, looking out further to expand that view is something we'll look at. But we'll also just relook at what other placeholders we need to note to align with your board priorities and just the work plans.
and part of my reason for asking is there was the continuity on that one thing that I was curious about. But we have weeks in October and November where we've already maxed out time. And we still have a little flexibility in December. and all five of us are here. But I remember last year, January, February, March, you and your staff are working very intently to develop the proposed agenda. And so recalling how stressful that was, I'm just trying to make sure
Mhm.
I'm being thoughtful. And asking for things that are really necessary.
So thank you for that. And just to clarify, I believe what you meant was the proposed budget, not
Yeah.
the proposed agenda. So I just want to,
Yes,
I
thank
just,
you.
for
Proposed
other
budget.
people who may
Yeah.
be listening,
Thank
just
you.
clarify that word. Yes, and for that reason, that's why we do want to look out to that first quarter of, I can't believe I'm saying it, but 2025. Not only for your board's edification, but for staff to ensure that we're focusing on the right things during that point in time.
Okay. Okay. Alrighty. So that was just tying up some loose ends for me with regard to calendar and scheduling. There are three things that I thought would be useful for us to have conversation about in no particular order. One is talking about elections coming up and the United Sovereigns of Americans group that came to our meeting on Tuesday. They had previously sent us an email through the constituent report saying that they would be visiting us on a regular basis. Yesterday was the first day that we had that experience. And so I just wanted to touch bases with regard to our approach moving forward. Then I wanted to come back to see if there were any loose ends from the Board of Commissioners, Washington County mayors. I think we brought everything to a closure, but I just felt that today would be a good time to double check that. And then the last item on my list, which unfortunately due to timing needs to be the last one, the last topic, is syncing up on Metro SHS reform. And I can explain that when we get to it. So, because Grace is currently listening to the Metro Council meeting, which is their second meeting on the topic. So, does anyone else have anything, or do you want to touch on all of those or not?
I want to touch on those. I'd also like to, I had a little chance to talk to Aaron Doyle at lunchtime about October 10th and the governor's meeting. So I know,
Oh, yeah,
just want to mention that.
yeah. Without looking at my calendar, it's something like the public hearing. She's required to have a public meeting. Per SB 4. Thank you. Okay, what would we like to start first? That one feels like the easiest to me.
Okay, let's start
Let's
there.
dive into it. Actually, Erin, would you mind coming up to the table to share what logistics, if any, you're aware of? I know I'll be here that week. Are you and Jerry?
Back that day, back the day, late the day before, but I'd like to go to that meeting too.
So, first of all, I will be joined by ACA, Ledesma, and LUT to come to your board on Tuesday. It's probably not reflective on the rolling agenda yet. I know that you and Commissioner Willie are out of town. We'll provide you the
said you were.
information before that. We'll go over this again when we have it more solidified, but
Got it.
they have not finalized the schedule yet. We are meeting with them on Monday to find out what the final run of show is, but there will be a presentation portion and then a public comment piece that evening that is scheduled to be at Hillsborough City Civic Center. I think that's what they call it, from 6 to 9 p.m. It's open to the public to testify. There is a online, like we have to sign up to testify. My understanding is they would like to hear from your board, and one of the things we will talk about on Tuesday with your board to solidify is the messaging of the county. So that way, if you are approached by anyone, you can have that conversation comfortably knowing you can speak as one with one voice.
Yeah.
And
And
Ellie,
I'm prepared as the
Yeah.
chair to represent that.
yeah, and we'll make sure that it's all copacetic with everyone, but there's more information that will be posted on the business org and notice of the public meeting that we are still waiting for to be published that will give a lot more detail, which is why all of the materials are pending for Tuesday.
Thanks. I just
Work
wanted-
session. No, that's fine. We'll have a lot more clarity in the next 24 hours and come back to your board in a public work session on Tuesday in preparation for that meeting.
Great.
Any questions? Okay, I'll answer them on Tuesday. Thank you.
And pay you on Tuesday.
Okay, on elections and that group that I mentioned, I do imagine that they will come again to future board meetings. We have had a process that follows our charter and rules of procedure, adopted rules of procedure, where we have 2 public comment periods, one at the beginning of the meeting for up to 2 minutes for a total of 10, and a second public comment period for up to 5 minutes an individual. Clerk Moss reminded me and all of us that it's bounded by 30 minutes by our adopted rules of procedure. So that is eventually what we came to. On Tuesday, during the break, I do what I usually do with him ahead of meetings and then during such times. And we synced up on how many people had already signed up, and there were 8. And then I always anticipate that there's the possibility of people on Zoom as well. Hence, I, per the rules of procedure, as presiding officer, made the decision to limit the comment to 2 minutes in the hopes that we would have time for all of the people who signed up in person, decided in the room they wanted to, and then Zoom. We moved from there to revisit the rules of procedure in quick summary, and a motion was made to just use the 5 minutes per person for the maximum 30 minutes and go from there, which is what we did. Luckily, with the exception of people on Zoom by that time, we gave everyone who had signed up the opportunity to talk. What I believe in as one is I am firmly in support of giving people the opportunity to exercise free speech, which is why as presiding officer, I was going for the maximum extent possible. What I do have challenges with is when meetings move from being civil, maintaining to decorum, to audience participation. So I don't know how it felt for you, Clerk Moss, because you and I tend to be the ones to sync up on the experience with people having signs. And there were multiple signs, but I thought people were very good and they just held up their signs and then put them back down. So by our rules, they weren't blocking anyone's view for longer than they're holding it up and then putting it down. Although I haven't looked back at the rules to see if it's no signs, but I thought my recollection was they couldn't block people's view.
I
So
thought it said no signs.
Let me double check.
That'd be great. So, so what I expect is that if colleagues want to do something different, then they actually make a motion to do something different than what our adopted rules of procedure are. So our rules of procedure allow for a different proposal, but do it within that rules of procedure. So
I personally think that we should be reviewing our rules of procedure because my understanding is that we are going to see more of this type of meeting, especially up until the election. So I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page as to how this occurs. And I think it's a good idea, Chair, to revisit these.
well, that's your proposal. I'm not suggesting revisiting them. I'm
No, I mean,
suggesting,
reviewing them.
Yeah.
Like we're doing right now, what we're doing. That's what I'm saying. Thank you for doing it. This is a good thing.
oh, okay.
That's what I'm saying. I'm sorry that Jerry's not here to hear this too. So that's something that, I'm sorry about that. I just want to make sure that we can continue to move forward and not have, the problem. I don't want problems between us when we're there. And that's why I think this is a smart discussion.
But what I'm also concerned about is not everyone who was in attendance is a member of this group. And so the only other time in the 6 years that I recall having this audience participation bordering on gang mentality is when we had visits with regard to the Aloha Safe Rest Village.
Wood Spring was pretty volatile too.
I don't remember Wood Spring.
Wood Spring was when
Oh, the Tigard
Woods-
apartment.
yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
I was thinking
They were
Heartwood
broken?
Commons when
The
you said
what?
Woods.
Oh, yeah.
They had clapping, but I don't
Lots
think,
of-
Yeah, but I didn't remember them being
Lots
as
of
aggressive as the other two groups. But
yeah, I just remember the little piece of paper signs that they had too. And then they had their big signs in the back. So, yeah.
I think what will be really helpful is, because I think what happened was when somebody was already testifying and then a motion came after, I think once the testimony process starts, let the testimony take its course. I think of making him, if one of us wants to make a motion, maybe jump ahead beginning of it and have a dialogue, but midway was kind of confusing because one person went 2 minutes and then the rest of the people got 5 minutes or so. I think that, to me, midway motions was a bit,
Except that person started talking and interrupted the chair, interrupted others, and just began their testimony.
But I had already
Already,
explained
yeah.
what I started the second public comment period
With 2 minutes, right?
Yeah.
saying it was going to be 2 minutes.
But he began talking before we had really settled
Said
down.
go.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
Exact, and that's,
Yeah.
and so while I agree in concept, and he would not stop. I mean, he was asked to stop.
Yeah.
I mean, that was, that,
But I also expect that when we go into these meetings, you will already have, because we've gone over the rules and procedures multiple times. I'm not going to be reminding you what the rules of procedure are.
no, not in the meeting, no.
it's.
One of
depends
us
on-
needed to be reminded.
I'm not disagreeing with you when you hear me this, but I think while the person didn't, the normal process of chair saying and the presiding officer saying, go ahead. I think there was a little bit of a dysfunction, like a little bit of a conversation happening, not necessarily a, but so he
He
just
did-
went in
he did
ahead.
Go into it
Yeah,
very
go into
quickly.
it, and then.
didn't stop
And then
when
it was
asked.
Yeah.
like, so I think a word of advice is we come forward with our motion in the beginning. Whether we like it or not, if it takes its course, let it run its course and we'll.
Well, I think that we did take the motion as soon as we were able to in real
Mm.
time. Yeah. And that I do. And there will be times when we don't have much advance notice of people coming into the meetings,
Mhm.
right? Because the doors open, their doors are always open. So people can commit when they want to come in. Yes, Ms. Nucci.
One of the suggestions that Courtney and I have from a safety and security is that we work with facilities and not allow people past the point of the start of the dais where Kevin sits on one side and Courtney. There are people videotaping from behind Kevin and behind Courtney. And so just from a safety and security, working with facilities to somehow say no public beyond this
Even a
point.
cordon or
Yeah.
something.
And that's a good point, actually. You're right. There was somebody recording and standing right on top of clerk mouse. So,
And
yeah, good,
and
good,
Courtney.
good point. Oh, was it Court? Oh, I didn't know. I usually
There were a
look.
couple
at-
people.
Yep.
Yeah, I should, yeah.
He
Okay.
switched
Which
sides.
sides? Okay, I was just paying attention when you were standing.
I just wanted to follow up. Your rules of procedure are silent on signs or clapping interactions. So that would be something to consider clarifying in the rules, as well as Miss Angie and I had talked after the meeting. I think we should, as
Something talks about signs. Because we've
Just
been
did a
over
word
this
search.
before.
Yeah, so the only signs was the use of visual aids, which you directed, they have to go through me, and if I can regulate them, and if I say no, they can appeal to the board on using them during their presentation, but nothing.
There's a guide on how to testify online. So it's separate from the rules and procedure.
Mhm.
Is it there that we have?
Uh,
something on?
I'll look
Because
at,
I remember, or it could be a proposal that I'm remembering.
I remember this came up, the Wood Spring. They had signs and I think, so I'm looking right now.
well, and it could be also, under the public meetings law, there's an inherent authority to keep order and conduct business. So it could have been just a decision in the day as well for the orderly conducting of the meeting.
Yeah.
But I'll look through the other thing.
All I can tell you is yesterday, as there were signs, I was mindful of signs being displayed. But since they didn't they didn't seem to me to be disruptive of someone in the viewing from inside the room.
Mhm.
I didn't say anything. I didn't call it out. So, that's all. I don't know what other people's experience was, so that's all. So,
They were not disruptive to me as well. I didn't mind, and I think seemed like coordinated effort to just sort of either do the handshake, handshaking, waving, and or instead of clapping. So I thought that was, they're being cognizant of that. And then coordinating their up and down signs.
I think there was a little bit more group activity than that summary, but.
Well, there were, yeah, I'm not saying uniformly, but yeah, there was some clapping going on in there, but majority of the time there.
Cheering,
Yeah. there was-
other feedback.
Oh, oh, yeah, the dialogue about the board and.
So I have a question that one of their requests repeatedly was to have a work session. Well, we don't respond to external requests for work sessions. That's not how we operate. And is that, I wondered if we don't have that request normally. you know, we don't see that. I think that.
There are lots of groups that approach me or Ms. Angie that would like to present information to us.
Yeah.
And the fact of the matter is, we have fully booked out
Yeah.
work sessions.
But aside from being fully booked out, is there do we have guidelines in relationship to work session and how the fact that it's generated, those needs are generated internally, not externally?
No, it could be external though. In the rules of procedure, any board member can put any agenda item on the.
A board member can.
Yeah.
That's what
so-
I'm saying.
yeah.
I
So they're
don't-
making the request to us saying that we want to have a work session. I think and what I'm in agreement is we're really got a lot going on in the county.
I agree. I'm still working through what the answer to that request is. So,
There were a lot of things said that I don't believe to be true, such as your elections team does what you tell them to do when we already have the written verification that our elections team follows specific ORS and the rules set out by the Secretary of State. And so there was a bunch of incorrect information said about what the home rule charter enables us to do. So I don't see any reason why we need to revisit all of that and help correct their misinformation. So, but those are just my views. Have you been interacting with any members of the United Sovereigns Americans?
I didn't even know that was a name, but I had 3 or 4 people come up and talk to me afterward. My cautions were don't overreact because that was being seen as punitive. I think it's impossible as a chair position to know exactly how to react. I mean, you can't have that many people prepared. I didn't know they were coming in those numbers until the night before when Kevin or somebody sent out a message that there would be a lot of people there. So I wouldn't overreact to that. I do, and I mentioned to you, Tom, that I think that there's some response that needs to be given to that. I mean, if somebody gives you a sheet and says there's all these instances of, you know, erroneous activity, I think you have some general statement. How deep you dive, I mean, that's up to you, but if we ignore it, it seems like we are deaf to the issue. They will keep coming back. The only reaction I had from them was, we want a meeting, and I said, well, let's have a understanding of what those issues are. You're presenting something, and I have no background. I mean, I don't understand how you found those. I don't know how they came to their conclusions. I don't know where they got their answers, how they came up with these error rates. I mean, I don't know any of that. That's just a sheet that was handed. I'd be, just my 2 cents, I'd be very cautious of saying, let's put any specific rules in until after it kind of blows through. Another 30 days is kind of done. It's like, they did tell me they're gonna keep coming back over and over and over and over again. I said, well, that's unfortunate. Really,
That's
Gain a
their
lot.
right.
it's
That's
their
their
but
right.
it's unfortunate because we're not getting anywhere to speak at us until we come.
But even if we do anything, my impression is they're just gonna keep exercising their right to say what they'd like.
Democracy.
Yeah, that's the way our republic works.
Yeah, you may well be right, but individually, that people react differently in groups and they react individually, as we all know, and individually, we just want to be. Fair enough.
I think the board will be there every Tuesday.
Yeah, we will. Yeah. Yeah, anyway, that's my, I don't. Just happen. I've found out disagreements about, where there are errors, of course, there's always errors, but they're not significant. All of them are to happen. So that's the problem. Can't, can't come to conclusion. Material. 9,000 errors is kind of hard to believe. I suspect there's few other stuff. It was never hard, so it doesn't affect.
I think one thing I took away from all that is they're not refuting the leadership of the elections team. They think they're really great. They're not refuting any of the facts. But there's a lot of conspiracy and I don't know who's responsible of helping inform those because I'm not sure it's the county's responsibility to say, hey, Dan, hey, Joe, go answer these conspiracy and figure out where they started out. And I didn't see any facts that they were disagreeing. Just the conspiracy side, and this is where I find. But, yeah.
Right. And that, nothing, reports that I'm used to in my world, which is very different, is that you have support for what you come up with, not just a page of your
Yeah.
organization. So I can't address it.
If it's helpful information for your board, staff take in any concerns on our elections system from a safety, security, integrity standpoint very seriously. Earlier this year, I met and I recognized 3 of the individuals that were in the audience with Commissioner Willie, and they presented us not the same information that was presented, but a pack of information. Immediately thereafter, met with Joe Nelson and also Dan Forrester to really gave them time to review. And based on the conversation, I still feel very confident within the system that we have. Also reminding your board, vote by mail is not a decision of the county. It is a decision of the state and what that process is. And that was also clarified with them. Just wanted to make sure that is open information and also on the record.
There's an interesting on national news last night. The Dan Forrester from across the country for I think it was Durham County was talking about what they're doing and the protections that they're putting into place. And as I watched it, I thought, you could be Dan Forrester saying exactly the same things. There was the protective glass, there were all the things that we saw on the tour and answering these types of issues. So if it's any comfort, we're not alone in having this experience. So.
Another Dan Forrester doing great work.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I thought. The person speaking was articulate. His points were just the same as ours are. So.
Roy, could you pull your mic a little bit closer? I heard from someone trying to listen on Zoom. They'd like to hear you.
Want to hear me?
They do want to hear you.
Oh, okay. I am teasing.
So I think to wrap this up, we'll continue operating, following our charter and rules of procedure and go from there.
Sounds good to me.
Great, great.
Up for a thumbs up. I don't know if we need to give a thumbs up. Well, we're on roundtable, sorry. Okay. All right. Thumbs up is different.
We can still have thumbs up.
I agree.
All righty. So next item I thought we would just chat about real briefly is, so from the mayors and chairs meeting, we had a fruitful exchange of thoughts and views. The mayors know that I shared the information from the board this past proposed budget year with them earlier in the year. And I continue to intend to operate per my sharing of information and giving them the opportunity of knowing what's on our plate and before us. And that's pretty much all that I think we came to. So, but I wanted to make sure I gave you all the opportunity to raise if you thought there was something else that came to a conclusion or clear next steps out of that meeting. And then we could talk about, reaffirm that, yes, that's something we do or don't want to do, and figure out how to go about doing it.
Back. From my perspective, I thought it was a good meeting that took a little of the air out of the balloon. And just kind of, you go through these meetings all the time by yourself.
Yep.
With them. I don't know if what the dynamics were for you to have us with you in that meeting. Didn't change anything for you. Okay. Well, I thought it was a good meeting. I wouldn't mind having additional meetings, but to what end is the question.
Well, we know we're gonna have another one
For budget.
in May. Yep.
I agree with you. I thought it was a really good conversation. I really thought that, hard facts were laid out about the county's reality and cost outpacing revenues, and it was a good discussion. I didn't think everything was really said well and didn't contribute much, but didn't also feel like I needed to because everything was said. So good meeting, and I think it's a good start.
Well, at the risk of sounding redundant, what you've heard me mention before is the mayors are quite informed on what the big things are on our plate. They know that we have multiple ordinances coming before us. And they also are looking for clarity in terms of how they might be engaged on the public safety levy, the libraries levy, and the jail and community corrections capacity. That's why I've been looking for the rolling agendas between now and the end of the year to provide with clarity in terms of what the work plans will be like for those projects through to, well, in the case of referrals, when in the first half of next year will we have some meat on the bones to actually talk about? So we're just not there yet.
No meat on the bone.
Oh.
That's what's from.
So, that's
Sorry.
still yet to come, right? It's still the beginning of October. So, we're working on that clarity. I know Commissioner Fye and I are on the steering committee for the public safety levy work. Commissioner Treese and Willie for WCCLS. We've got the jail capacity planning effort still getting its sea legs as well. So I remain quite hopeful. I think we're going to get more of that clarity in the months ahead. It's just for those who want the certainty now, it's like, sorry, can't squeeze blood out of a rock. So, yeah, so that's just where we're at.
I'm not gonna steal your thunder, but I like what you were suggesting this morning, Commissioner Willie, about the information that Greg shared with us this morning to share with the mayors, but I suppose that's already
Yeah, I think.
in the mayor and the chairs meeting happens, the information sharing.
Well, but that doesn't preclude you sharing it whenever the heck you want.
Okay. We can share.
I know that
We're not saying.
I do it with them too.
Oh, I'm assuming you do, so I was saying it's a good idea, but.
Some of,
we're doing it.
some of the mayors want to have information before you get it.
Oh,
And I have remained true to us as colleagues and bring them in when there is information that you've had the benefit of, but not get ahead of you.
Hmm.
That's my sign of respect in working with you as colleagues. So. Yep. Okay. All righty. Next topic, Metro SHS reform. So, things are continuing to look interesting and unclear. Grace is still attending their council meeting. So we don't have any concrete information to bring in yet. Let me grab my rolling agenda. We do have on the calendar for October 15th. You'll miss it. According to my notes, but 4 of us will be here. I was hoping that prior to bringing this up with you that I would know when the Metro Council president and the 3 county chairs would be getting back together. We don't have that set up either. In the IGA, there is a executive team that when we put the IGA together, each board authorized that we have designees from staff participate. We have not changed that yet, but the IGAs do have the construct for the Metro Council and the 3 county commissions to decide the reps for that meeting. So one of the current ideas is that we reconvene that group with the Metro president and the 3 county chairs for a bit at least.
And that group had not been meeting in the recent history, correct?
Yes.
That's what I thought.
Yes,
Okay.
it's been quite some time.
Okay.
So, the Metro Council did have a work session on September 24th. And then they had us, or are having a second meeting today. I do continue to be very concerned that the meaning of the IGAs is lost. I am beginning to think that the council is planning to move forward with those things they can change in their view legislatively. And then, as we all know, if they want to change the tax rate, they have to go to the ballot for that. What our team is, one of the things our team is going to be bringing to us on the 15th is the reality that the year 3 collections are that 6% lower than projected. That's public knowledge. And as such, those various reductions that they scoped out at a work session for us in August, the 5 million summary could be achieved by any or a combination of the following, similarly with 10 million. So they're going to be coming back to us as a next step on the 15th because we know we have that immediate problem. It's not just a once and done kind of thing because they could just cover that through reserves, but at the end of the day, you still have to replenish the reserves, right? Because Metro has clear and specific requirements for reserves. So there are different options. So expect to see some options laid out for that October 15th conversation and for us to go from there. What is clearer to me now is that there are financial impacts to all three levers that Metro is considering. And as our agency has announced, we have fully committed, as you're familiar, right, with the permanent Beaverton shelter, with a permanent Hillsborough shelter. We have said that our safe rest villages would only be in place for a certain time period. And I believe all of the jurisdictions in Washington County have satisfied state law on the camping ordinances, time, place, and manner. Here gets to the interesting part for me. I'm beginning to think that we may want to revisit the camping ordinance for Washington County. It was very successful, along with our homeless encampment program, to manage the realities of the multiple homeless encampments and to eliminate them, right? But in a very humane, workable way. And we haven't had the extent of the problems that we have had before. But I want to plant the seed that with these financial impacts, we're not going to have the same level of resources to offer so many on-ramps for people. And so, you know, the options that come to us on October 15, as we saw in the prior slides, we may be facing a situation where we can't offer as much eviction prevention, financial assistance to people to keep them from becoming homeless. Okay, well, I've carried that thinking further. What does that mean? That has the risk of more people actually becoming homeless. And so I took that thought further, and I was like, so does that mean we might have the potential of seeing people camping or needing to camp again? And so things have advanced with the city of Portland and their camping time, place, and manner. The implementation all across Washington County has had time. My summary thought is that the Washington County time, place, and manner was the most generous in terms of notice for people. But I'm concerned, especially our time, place, and manner applies to the UUAs. That's the largest population center. And so I'm concerned that with the potential reductions that we may have to consider and support with our staff, that we need to be prepared for seeing more blue tarps going up and more tents going up. And the reason we have to start thinking about this is because time, place, and manner is an ordinance. So it takes time to put in place. We have at least 4 we're still trying to get done. And per the rolling agenda today, one of them will have its first hearing, our last meeting of December, but it now carries forward into 2025 versus being done by the end of the year, which when I reviewed the latest late yesterday, I went, oh, okay. So I can't just count on our having LUT bandwidth to deal with revised time, place, and manner early in the year. So,
So I think what I hear you saying is that without the resources to keep and maintain the shelter number where it is, we can't guarantee that we have shelter space for our potential campers, and therefore we lose the opportunity to enforce time, place, and manner.
possibly, yeah,
Potentially.
yes, yes.
Potentially and into the future. And this is a question, do we need to rewrite the ordinance, or don't we just lose our capability of enforcement? Not that,
No, that's a really good point. I'm glad you raised that. It depends, right? I think what this discussion is helping me with is our staff did a really good job in August of painting a picture of what potential risks look like. And now that we know just with the 6%, what that means just for Washington County reduction. We can carry that further so that our staff can let us know based upon the human impact versus the jurisdictional support. We may be able to, using some of our current tools, look at some guiding principles. I mean, frankly, I don't want us this is why we have professional managers and subject matter experts that manage these programs. But I think no matter what tools we give them to do the job, it could potentially come before us again in terms of constituent complaints.
oh yeah,
So I think this tells me that we probably need to scope out not only October 15th, but some next steps. Yeah. So, but that time, place, and manner one was really on my brain. So I appreciate having some conversation. Because beyond providing guidance to Ms. Angie and the housing department, so that we can understand what the human impact might be, what the impact on the ground with UUA neighborhoods, city neighborhoods, business areas might be, and then what it might mean for agency, short-term and long-term, might be really helpful. But that we can only respond so deep.
and also for potential media interaction and communication. I just want to put that up there too.
Yeah, depends on what Metro makes publicly available. And right now, short of this meeting today, I'm just not seeing
I
it.
know.
I did one while back when I did the ride along with the Hillsborough Police Department. One of the things that we witnessed was while we have time, place, and manner ordinance in place, and the cities do, there are people who are camping out and who are homeless and using, for example, block 6 and 7. 6 and 7, it's between, it's parking, it's a empty space in between 6th and 7th Avenue. But that block is heavily utilized by homeless people who are camped. And even after my ride along, I still see in the morning on my way to here, police officers helping people comply with the ordinance. So I think might be a good idea for the board to get an update on time, place, and manner, and how many of that activity that actually happens, that they find people who are camping out and comply with the ordinance.
I'm trying to make sure I follow you. Our time, place, and manner doesn't pertain to the city of Hillsborough. What you're describing is the city of Hillsborough's implementation of their own camping ordinance, time, place, and manner.
What I was describing was my experience of what I saw during the ride-along of officers helping people to comply with the city's ordinance. To say, hey, the time is up to, to dismantle your tent and to put your stuff away and go seek shelter. The, the point I'm trying to connect to is sort of getting an update, the board getting an update of how many of that happens within the sheriff's department, how many
Oh,
the
so for just the
officers.
UUAs. you're not
Yeah,
looking
how
for-
many? Because I've seen the officers of Hillsborough with my ride along, and then I witness it when I'm driving, when I don't take the back road and I drive it. And this isn't just something I experience. I bet you it happens every morning. But the times I drive here, I see it, the officers,
The Hillsborough officers.
the city officers. So I'm trying to say, like, how many of that happens within Washington County that only the Washington County ordinance applies to that activity? Because there are people who are, I bet, camping out. And the sheriff's office is telling them comply with the ordinance.
So can I repeat that back? What I think you're asking
Sorry,
is for an update on the Washington County time, place, manner ordinance from the sheriff's office, including any data that they may be tracking in that implementation. Is that correct?
yeah, the
Okay.
enforcement of it. How are they enforcing? Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
I just want to be clear.
yeah.
As far as I know, the city time, place, and manner, and Jerry may remember this better than I do, allows camping during a certain time period, like during the night.
7 to 7.
7 to
7
7, I was gonna say
Yes.
9 PM to 7 AM. So that's related to what you see in the morning. Yeah, they're reminding people that they need to dismantle and move on. So that's not a problem. That's a sign of success that they're implementing to their time. So
Yeah. How is that happening?
ours has a lot different
Yeah,
system.
it's, the time is days and, yeah, no.
I'll talk with Sheriff Massey about that.
Well, sorry, I don't have more information. I was really quite optimistic that we would. And that more information would finally be public. So, and it's not yet. So onward, ho we go.
While we're on the
Your optimism is is
Oh.
wonderful. I'm surprised you still have it.
Some days are better than others.
Commendable, that's what I meant to say.
Mentioning Metro, I was, I took my computer to show it to Commissioner Trees here, but the Metro future visioning isn't connected to the supportive housing services. This is something completely different, right? Okay. I had that ready just in case it was part of that. I'm like, what is this? So thank you. I thought it was, there's a lot happening.
Okay. I don't have anything else. I think we did a good job in covering those 5 different items, so onward, ho we go. Anybody else have anything? All right. Well, good luck with your travels to New Orleans. What is the weather? Well, we don't need to discuss that on camera. So good luck.
I didn't say anything, I just.
Are you swimming?
Would be.
Maybe.
Swimming in air. Yep. All righty. So our roundtable is hereby adjourned. Thank you.